Alrighty. Hello and welcome to the financial, let me check my microphone. Hello and welcome to the financial self-care workshop, or webinar, I should say. So before we get started, I do want to go ahead and share just a little bit about myself. Um, just because, when it comes to someone teaching or showing you something, it is important to know a little bit about them and like where they're coming from. So my name is Harmony Smith, and I am a graduate counseling intern here at USAWA Wellness Services. I have a supervisor, Miss Virginia Dalton, um, who works on site with me, and then I also have a supervisor at my university for more just support and help. Now, typically, I specialize in the perinatal population, couples, sexuality, sexual identity, even like alternative sexualities and things like that. But one of the things I really advocate for is self-care. And, oftentimes we think about like bubble baths and tea, which are important things to have, but there are also practical steps and things that we can do in order to care for ourselves better, right? And so this particular workshop is going to be focused on financial self-care and how we can go about understanding, really evaluating, and being able to adjust our financial self-care to align more with like our values, right? So that we can live a more value aligned life. So, get my notes here. Um, let's keep going. This is a nice to meet you. Typically, I do this webinar with a group, so we're gonna go ahead and skip this slide. It's an icebreaker, your name, city you're from, what brought you to this workshop, what you're hoping to get out of it, and your favorite self-care activity. I do hope that as you're going through the workshop, that you have those questions in mind of like what you're hoping to get out of it, and that it aligns with that. Now, this is the agenda. So first, we're going to do an overview on like what self-care is. We're going to talk about what financial self-care is. There's going to be a financial vision activity, definitions and framework, and then practical next steps. And then also questions, which again, typically it's a live workshop. So, but if you do have questions, you will be able to reach out. Okay, so let's start with the self-care types. These are like the top three that most people think of when we do talk about self-care. You got physical, mental, and emotional. For physical self-care, these are the activities that you engage in to really support your physical health, right? So that could be like just moving daily, Pilates, the gym, yoga, whatever that looks like for you to support the health of your body and your bones physically. Eating nutritious food that fuels your body, whatever that looks like for you. And then also getting enough sleep. And I feel like that may not be talked about a lot, but a large part of physical self care is really getting enough sleep at night so that you have the energy and the ability to really go throughout your day. Now, next is mental self care. So, these are the activities that you engage in order to support your mental health and wellness. What this can look like is signing up for therapy or counseling, taking care of your brain. For some people, that's doing like puzzles or like memory games, just whatever that looks like for you, and knowing your goals, your values, and where you are. And also a digital detox might helps to support your mental health because there are, just different side effects on using technology, phones, tablets, computers, being on social media a lot. There can be some just side effects for that have to do with your mental health. So sometimes it is nice to have a digital detox, and that can be one of the ways that people take care of their mental health. The next one is going to be emotional health. Now, these are the activities that you engage in order to support like emotional regulation, emotional wellness. This can look like mindfulness, it can look like journaling or reflecting. It can also look like practicing breathing exercises because throughout the day we have different things that are getting thrown at us, right? And depending on our history, depending on our experiences, that those things can trigger different types of responses in us. And in order to maintain like an emotionally like regulated state, sometimes we do need to focus on our breathing, for 5 minutes or practice some mindfulness to really externalize and observe some of the thoughts that we're having in that moment so that we are able to, engage thoughtfully and maintain kind of the present moment and stay grounded. And so those are some of the ways that people engage in emotional self-care to help support their regulation and kind of emotional stability. Next is going to be spiritual, financial, and social. And I think that these self care types are not talked about as much as the other three. They may be kind of hidden or things that people don't typically process as self care. So, spiritual self care are activities that you do to support your spiritual health and well being. So, this can include prayer, it can include going to church or practicing yoga, just different activities that people do to get more connected with themselves or their higher selves or God, whatever that looks like for you, could be how you engage in spiritual self care. Right. And it all has to do with like maintaining your wellness. It could be like going outside, walking in nature, whatever helps you to stay grounded in yourself and also to just be able to better like cope and thrive in your life. Next is financial self care, which we're going to talk more about today. But these are activities that you do to support your financial health and well being, which can include creating a budget, attending financial counseling, or just reflecting on your finances and developing values and goals. All these activities contribute to financial wellness and also like just consider financial self care, right? And we're going to talk a lot more about different things that you can do to maintain your financial self care too throughout the workshop. And lastly, we have social self care. So these are activities that you do to really support your social health and well being. This can be attending meetups, joining social clubs, or even monthly friend dates. Um, this is one of the key ones because as human beings, we are communal and social creatures, right? Community is really important to our well-being and to our survival. And so sometimes, especially with COVID and just with growing older and having a lot of different obligations, that the social self-care kind of gets lost. But feeling that belongingness and that connection to community is really important. So just being able to understand and look at where you are on the spectrum of social self-care and maybe signing up for some meetups or joining like a book club or something like that, just to get you one step closer to having community with other people. Now, with all six of these self-care types, there are going to be a lot of overlap because ultimately things contribute to our wellness and well-being might fall into things that contribute to our wellness and well-being might fall into different categories or multiple categories, but it's all for a better you and for self-care. So, what is financial self-care even? Like, what words come to mind when you think about financial self-care? Does it bring up a little bit of anxiety? That's really common. Does it bring up feelings of maybe shame or judgment? 'Cause that can be really common too. Just depending on what was your money mindset, how you were raised to think about money. What are the models and examples of money that you've seen, right? What have you been exposed to? So, when it comes to financial self care and financial wellness, it's basically being intentional about your finances and your financial wellness and ensuring that you are spending on the things that you value and not spending on the things that you don't, which is really because you can make a bunch of money, right? But it's really about how you manage and how you spend your money that will dictate your quality of life and your satisfaction in some senses. So it's important that we kind of maintain that sense of like awareness around our values, our financial values, and how are our actions and behaviors really aligning with those values. Okay, so why is financial self-care even important? Like, why should it matter? Money isn't everything. Money is the root of all evil, right? Um, it's just some quotes, that people do to try to take away from the power and the hold that obsessing about money can lead to. But I want to flip that a little bit because finances are important for our self-care, for our survival, for our health, right? It impacts our quality of life. If you make money or if you don't make enough money to be able to buy healthy foods or to be able to have some type of gym membership or go to some type of movement class to incorporate in your day, or if you are able to afford to buy a house or rent a house or an apartment in a neighborhood where you have access to green spaces. And so just thinking about all those different elements, that comes down to finances a lot of the time. And so your finances really touch all the parts of your life, so that it influences your quality of life. Next is financial stress can lead to mental health difficulties and concerns. Like, have you ever been stressed out about money, whether it be bills or even like investments or savings or traveling? How does that stress impact you? Like, take a moment to really pause and consider that when you are stressed about money, how that affects the different parts of your life and your overall well being. It can be a lot. It can be a lot. And next is that stress and frustration related to finances can impact our relationships. So, whether maybe you're married or you have a partner or partners, um, and you're stressed about finances, and everyone's not on the same page about values, about budgeting, about saving, about goals, well, that kind of discord can lead to conflict, right? And because we all have what's called like money scripts, which are ways that we're taught to think about money, and they're all different because all of our parents, all of our upbringings are different. We're bringing all of that with us to our different relationships, right? And when you're combining finances or you're interdependent financially on each other, then you have to really deal with that baggage. And that is how like the stress and frustration related to finances can come into relationships, right? And so that's why it's important that we are in tune with our financial self-care and financial wellness so that we're able to make those intentional decisions and have discussions, and compromises about needs and wants as it relates to finances and our loved ones. And lastly, finances can be used to support our mental and physical health, right? Like if you have a well-paying job and you have great insurance, and you'll probably have better access to mental health care that's more affordable than someone, say, who has to work a part-time job or has a job with super high deductible insurance that doesn't have behavioral or mental health benefits. And so that person's finances are leading to less access to support services for mental health. And even when you think about physical health, like getting a gym membership is expensive, it can cost money, it's a recurring fee. And if you're already living paycheck to paycheck, then how are you going to be able to afford that kind of support, that kind of resource? Um, if you don't have enough finances, or maybe you have enough finances, but it's not being managed and allocated well. So, in that sense, you don't have access to it, to the money that you need in order to reach access to the resources and support services that can improve your mental and physical health. And so that's why that intentionality around finances and financial self care is really, really important. Because going back to number one, it can improve your quality of life. If we're able to, work some things out and manage and organize those finances in a way that you can live according to your values, or at the very least, work towards that. So during my own financial journey, I wasn't raised rich or wealthy. We didn't have very many conversations about like actual budgeting and money and saving and what that looks like. So I had to find external resources to really fill that gap of knowledge, right? And I've kind of seen it all. My opinion, I started off with Dave Ramsey, and honestly, it I didn't really like it. It wasn't my style of financing and budgeting. There seemed to be a lot of like shame and kind of just a little bit derogatory way of dealing with people and with their finances. So it really turned me off. It just wasn't my cup of tea, right? And I looked at other financial resources too, but I found one that I really, really connected with and enjoyed, which his name is Ramit Sethi. He is a financial advisor. He advises now like big corporations and companies and consults and things like that. But he looks at the actual psychology of money. He looks at what your values are and how they align with where you want your financial life to be. Right? So one of his quotes are, "A rich life means you can spend extravagantly on the things you love as long as you cut costs mercilessly on the things that you don't." And along with this quote is this idea of like you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything, especially not all at the same time, because money is like a finite resource, right? You can only have so much money unless you're, top 0.1% of billionaires. Most like regular everyday people like you and me can only have so much money. And so it really matters how we finance, how we manage our finances, and how we organize and use that money to support our lifestyles, right? And so in this case, in the quote, it means like those things that you really love to do, spend as much as you want within your your range on the things that you love. And the things that you don't really care about, well, you don't have to spend a lot on those. Like for example, I don't really spend much on like getting my hair done. I do my own hair. It's not important for me to get it professionally done and to pay all those costs. I think it's like $300 for like a curly haircut. That's not important or valuable for me because I know that I can do it myself. Whereas things like traveling or things like eating nutritiously, those things are important to me. And so when it comes to like the percentages in my budget, I'm going to be spending more on traveling. I will save and scrounge in other areas like hair maintenance so that I can put more money towards traveling, which is something I really love to do. Now, defining your rich life. Let us talk about creating a financial vision. A huge part of living your rich life is creating a vision of like what you want it to be like, right? And what do I want it to look like? So I would like to guide you through a mindfulness exercise. I mean, it's mantras to go ahead and get us started. Okay. Please close your eyes if you're comfortable. I breathe in calm. I breathe out calm. Calm fills me. Calm surrounds me. I am calm. I breathe in alignment. I breathe out alignment. Alignment fills me. Alignment surrounds me. I am aligned. Bring your attention and awareness to your daily money interactions and thoughts. Reflect on how you feel when you save, when you give, when you invest, and when you earn money. Letting any distracting thoughts pass through without judgment. Gently refocusing your attention on your daily money interactions. Observe the thoughts and feelings that arise without judgment. Now bring your focused attention to the vision you have for your rich life. What does it look like? Where do you live? How do you feel being there? What do you see? What kinds of things are you doing? When you are ready, open your eyes. Take a moment and reflect on what was that like for you? What kinds of things did you see? Are you living in a house? Maybe you live abroad on the beach. Are you traveling yearly, monthly? Are you trying new restaurants regularly? Are you living a simple life with your dog or your cats? Take some time to engage and explore what your rich life looks like. What is valuable and important to you, and what is not. And when we take our time to reflect and just simmer on what our vision is, then we can start to create some goals and have an understanding of what it is we truly want for ourselves through our finances. Okay, let's continue. And with the last activity, if you feel compelled to maybe take 10 to 15 minutes to journal and to really get it out of your head and onto paper, feel free to do that. That might be just what you need in order to get a better idea of your financial vision. Okay, so let's get to some nitty gritty definitions and framework. And this is not exhaustive. These are just four main definitions of the work and the tools that we're going to be using in this workshop. The first one is fixed cost. And these will be the costs related to things that you need to live: rent, mortgage, other bills, right? Ideally, these costs should make up only 50 to 60% of your income. So next are going to be important investments, right? This is your emergency fund. Typically, it's recommended to have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Um, that takes time to save, so don't like beat yourself up about it. And typically, it's recommended that that goes into what's called a high yield savings account, um, which you can look into. Things like Ally and even Capital One, other banks have high yield savings accounts. Next, are retirement accounts like Roth IRAs, 401ks, different things like that. Typically, it's recommended that this is 5 to 10% of your income. Now, again, I am not a financial advisor or a financial professional. So for specific numbers and specific advice on what you should do or what you should invest in, make sure that you use your resources, whether it be at work or in your community, to reach out and to get a better understanding of how you want your money to work for you. Next, we have some savings goals. So this is going to be what you want for the future: short term, mid-term, and long term. This can be like AirPods, electronics, saving for a car, saving for a house, saving for college. This can also be potentially saving for travel, right? Or having if your family is from a different country, just saving for things like that. And that ideally is about 20%. So saving 20% of your income for whatever it is that you decide that you need to save for is recommended. And lastly, we have guilt-free spending. These are not necessities, but they're things that improve your quality of life, right? And they bring you joy. So things like, again, travel or movies or different hobbies that you have. This could even be like going out and trying new restaurants, right? So ideally, that's about 20 to 30% of your income on guilt-free spending. These are the things that make life worth living. So you want to make sure that you allocate that money, you set it aside for things that you want. And this is where that principle comes in of spending extravagantly on things that you love and cutting costs on things that you don't. So you only have a finite amount of guilt-free spending, right? And you love travel. So put the money towards travel, right? If you are like me, like I don't, like I said, I'm not going to go and spend much money on getting my hair professionally done or professionally cut because that's just not important to me. That's not valuable to me. But I will go spend on travel, right? Or trying new things, seeing new places, or going to like the botanical gardens in different states, different things like that. That will go into my guilt-free spending pile. So it's really up to you to establish what that looks like. What do you love? What can you not live without? Maybe it's getting your nails done. Maybe it's getting like your eyelashes done, or maybe it's like beauty and maintenance, or maybe it's jewelry and watches. It all depends on like what you decide is valuable to you and what contributes to your life. And really make it a point to, you know, delete some things or to narrow that list down to things that truly matter to you and truly contribute to your happiness and your overall well-being. And again, all these things are going to look different for everyone depending on what stage of life you are in. So don't panic, don't freak out if your numbers are not these numbers. It takes time, to get to where you want to be financially. So give yourself some compassion and some grace as you're working and as you're learning, how to organize and get your finances together. Yeah, and also if you're like in college or if you just had a child, you're a new parent, it's important to consider the season that you are in your life. And sometimes the season that you're in, you can't save 20%. It's a great goal to have, but sometimes childcare costs are going to be more expensive than that. And so for that season of your life, 20% may be 5%. At least it's something, and you know what number to go to when you have that extra income available again, when the kids maybe get older or when you finish school and you're on your real salary. Okay, so what's next? We talked about these definitions. We have this financial vision in our mind. We know what our rich life looks like. We know what we want to spend on that we love and where we want to cut costs. So, how do you adjust your habits to align with your financial goals and values? Right? Let's talk about it. So, step number one is to categorize your current spending. We don't know where we're going if we don't know where we've been, and especially if we don't even know where we are now. So, we got to get a picture of what is happening in our budgets right now. That means understanding where your fixed costs are. What's my rent and mortgage? How much am I spending on that? How much am I spending on utilities, transportation costs, internet, all those things? What are my important investments? How much am I putting towards retirement account and stocks? Look at your pay stubs for your job. Are you contributing to your 401k? Does your employer match your 401k at any percentage? Take some time and really understand where you stand financially. And also savings goals. I know a lot of people want to buy a house. That's a goal for many to have and own a house or own some type of property. So what are your savings goals? Do you have an emergency fund? Are you saving anything towards your house down payment? Or are you saving like for car maintenance that recurs? Where are you? And finally, your guilt-free spending. Be real with yourself. What are you spending on clothing, on travel, on entertainment? Like, just be honest, just put all the numbers out there. Let's look at an example of the conscious spending plan now. All right, so let me go back to page one. This is an example of a blank. This one is blank, a blank conscious spending plan. And what this plan does is it looks at, first and foremost, your net worth. What is the value of your car, of your home, any other properties you have? What's the value of your business? What are your assets? It looks at your investments. What is the dollar amount value of your investments? 401k, even if it's not retirement, if you have maybe like a Robinhood or like a Sophie account and you have an investment account, what's the value of that? What's the current value of your savings? What is the value of your debt? I know it's hard to look at, but your student loans, credit card debt, mortgage debt, what is the value? And that's where you come up with your net worth. I know the language can feel daunting. Net worth, it has nothing to do with your worth as a person, as a human being. Your net worth is just what you have. It's not who you are. So when we look at net worth, we're looking at, where we stand. That's it, where you stand financially. So you want to have a good idea of like what that actually looks like for you in real time. As someone who is relatively young, your net worth might be negative, and that's not good or bad. It's just what it is, right? You have credit card debt, you have student loan debt. Maybe you do own a property, but you have mortgage debt. And you may not have a lot of assets, or you may not have a lot invested, a lot of equity in your assets. That's okay. This is just to get a snapshot of where you are and understand where you stand. So I want to challenge you to look at this and to fill out this information without any judgment towards yourself, in a very neutral way of, this is where I stand financially right now, or this is where me and my family or my partner and I, this is where we stand right now. Next, we're going to look at your income. What is your gross monthly income? That's all your income before taxes. Add it up. Next, your net monthly income. Take away the taxes. Now, what's your net income? And next, those fixed costs that we talked about. You have your rent or mortgage, you have your utilities, your insurance, your car payment or other transportation costs if you're taking a bus or a subway or train. Maybe you're flying every day. I don't know. It's a possibility. And then your debt payment. So those credit card payments or those student loan payments, or different things like that. And then you have your groceries, because that is a recurring fixed cost. You have to eat. You have your clothes. For some people, they don't get clothes often. Some people do. So just fill it out to whatever is true for you. Your phone bill, of course, any subscriptions. Look at those subscriptions. Any subscriptions that you have, and then miscellaneous, which adds 15% because we know we probably forgot some things in those fixed costs. So it adds that, and then you'll see your total, right? And then you'll have your investments, right? This is where you put your post-tax retirement savings. So this is not what that automatically comes out of your paycheck or that you see on your pay stub. This is what you put or spend or transfer after taxes are taken out. And then it's also your stocks, and then you add your own whatever other investments. And then you have some vacations and savings. I think there's maybe a little typo there, but that's for savings. So you have vacations, gifts, long-term emergency fund, and whatever else you want to add. Total. Finally, you have your guilt-free spending. This is on dining out, movies, whatever. Put that number in there. And that will be your conscious spending plan, where you can take a snapshot of where you stand financially, just to get an idea, to get that better picture. Now, here's some examples. And I can send you this. This link is also available on his website too, which I can send the link out or post the link in any description that this video might have. And it automatically also tells you the percentage of your income that each category takes up. Oh, here we go. So then we have someone else, right? They're in their early 20s. They don't have a car or house or anything like that. They have some investments, some savings, and they have about $18,000 worth of debt. Um, so their net worth is negative $9,500. So this is where Their fixed costs are 86%. I would say this is probably true for most people, especially most young people, that your fixed costs take up a lot of your take home pay. So it's important to try to cut down those whenever possible when it comes to cutting. So, well, these are some typos, but we'll exit out of that and go back to the presentation. Okay, so we looked at some examples of the conscious spending plan, and you have the link to the conscious spending plan so that you can fill in your own information. Now that we have categorized our finances, it's time to automate your finances. So, automating your finances means taking the mental pressure off of you to every month or every 2 weeks have to manually transfer things and move money around and all that stuff. Your time is valuable. Let's not waste time on doing things that we don't have to do. So when we get down to, our budget and our income, and if your income varies, base that conscious spending plan on a lower estimate because once you start to really automate your money, you want to make sure that there's going to be enough to go to all the expenses that you have established. So in this example, we have the salary, 100% of the salary, right? Okay, 5% goes to the 401k. Boom, that's done. Now, with the checkings account, from the checking account goes into the savings, the credit card, the miscellaneous bills, and the Roth IRA. So we have 5% going to the Roth IRA. Let's make that an automatic transfer, right? Set up the account, put in the account numbers, however your bank works, however you want to do it, set up that automatic transfer. And then next we have credit cards. So this person uses their credit cards to pay for their regular bills like Netflix and the gym, and also for their guilt-free spending. So from their paycheck, it goes to the checking account to pay off the credit card, right? And the checking account also goes to the miscellaneous bills. Maybe you can't pay on a credit card. So that'll go to like rent and utilities. And that is how that will be automated. And then this person has three different categories on their savings, which is wedding, down payment on a house, and vacation. That's 5% going to their savings from their checking account. So when they have the automatic transfer to savings, they might have buckets that they can use. Some accounts have buckets, some don't. It depends on your bank, that they'll put in this amount of money towards these different goals that they have. All right, so step by step, because that was a lot. Take a breath. That was a lot. So now let's really figure this stuff out, right? From this account goes this account. So first we have paycheck. From your paycheck, it funds the 401k and it goes into your checking account by direct deposit, right? At least this is the example that we're using. Everyone's situation is different. So do what works for you and for your situation. I don't know your situation. So if something that I mentioned here doesn't work for you, that's fine. Don't use it. Do what works for you. Next is the checking account. So the paycheck has gone into the checking account through direct deposit. And from the checking account, now we fund all of our other bills, right? This is the Roth IRA, the savings account, which is divided into different goals, the credit card, the fixed costs that don't allow credit card payments like rent and occasional spending cash, right? Now, from the credit card, that account funds the fixed cost and the guilt-free spending. So that's where that money goes, right? Now, first, you're going to log into all your accounts and you're going to decide what goes where. You can use this model, you can come up with something better that works for you, but make a decision about how you're going to pay your bills or fund your savings, all that stuff. And then you're going to set up automatic transfers. Whatever that looks like for you and your bank and your finances, that's what you do. And then the last one is to get all the bills on your same schedule. It's going to be hard to do um, automatic spending or automatic funding accounts or automatic transfers if you get paid on the 15th, but your bill is due on the 14th. So do your best to try to get your bills all on the same schedule, which maybe you have to call your company, call the gym and say, oh, can I move my payment date? just different things like that. But there's definitely more information out there on how to do that through his website or other resources online. So definitely, if you want more information about that, look into those resources. And now that you have categorized your spending, you're aware of where you stand financially. You know your goals and your values financially and what your rich life vision is. And you've automated things so that you don't have to stress anymore. Right? If that was true, that would be great. But you've automated things to make things a little bit easier when it comes to managing your finances. Well, now it's time to do a financial wellness check in. And this is something that you'll do regularly. You can do it monthly, bi monthly, bi weekly. I would not suggest weekly because it can just be very anxiety inducing to be reviewing your finances all the time. But whatever works for you, how often you get paid, you want to review your finances, or once a month you want to review your finances. Play with it, see if do once a month and see if that works for you or if you need to check in more often. But the point is, when you're doing this check-in, sit and ask yourself and reflect, okay, how am I feeling about my finances lately over this past month? How are we feeling about it? Are we happy? Are we discouraged? Are we anxious? You know, how do you feel about your finances? And then next, you're going to rate okay, how well are my actions and behaviors aligning with the financial goals that I said that I had? Right? And this is where you get real with yourself. If you had an income goal that you wanted to increase your income, right? Did you do that? Or you wanted to take another course, so with the goal of increasing your income, did you do that? Are your actions aligning with what you're saying that you want to do? Next, of course, is value alignment. Overall, how did I do? Did my values, did my actions align with the values I set out for myself generally? Next is going to be spending habits. Did I overspend? Did I underspend? Did I not spend on things that I love? You know, did it align with what my financial vision is? Next is savings. Did I save as much as I said I was going to save? Did it stay in my savings account? Asking yourself questions like that to really understand, okay, how did I do? And to evaluate yourself. And after that, you're going to develop an action plan, right? So let's say your goal was to increase your income. Your specific goal was over the next month, I want to bring in an extra $100 with Uber Eats. That's how I will increase my income. And that will be your action plan, right? The next one is over the next month, I will research a certificate or education program. So this is for if you feel stuck at your income level and you feel like maybe you've established your rich life and your current income level is not going to cut it. And you need to take some steps to increase that income over time. And for that, that may look like doing a certificate or a trade or some type of education program. So your goal, your action step is going to be, okay, I'll give myself a month. I'm going to research certificate or education programs, right? And what I'm interested in. And if you don't know what you're interested in, maybe your next step is to take a personality or a career inventory test to see what you're interested in. So that's your action plan. Or the next one about spending. Over the next month, I will spend $50 less on eating out and leave it at that and see what happens over the next month. And if you're able to meet that goal, evaluate why or what stood in your way of that goal. What were the barriers that and challenges that you faced? Was your goal realistic in the first place? Were there other things, other expenses that you hadn't considered that stopped you from meeting your goal? So take a moment to really develop those action plans so that next time you come back and do your check-in, that you can dive into what happened. You know, what worked well, what didn't work well, what do I need to change? All right, so thank you very much um, for coming to the workshop. If you do have questions, feel free to go to the website or give us a call if you want to schedule an appointment or if you're interested in therapy services. Again, my name is Harmony Smith. Thank you for coming to the presentation, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or evening whenever you're watching this.